Chapter 1. My English Struggle. Welcome to Inspiring English, the place where we don't just learn words, we learn to feel them. Where English becomes more than grammar and rules, it becomes a bridge between who you are now and who you dream to be. I'm so happy you're here, because today's story is deeply personal. It's not about perfect pronunciation or long vocabulary lists. It's about something far more real, that invisible wall inside your head that keeps you from speaking freely. Maybe you know that feeling. Your heart wants to express something, but your brain freezes, searching for words that never come on time. When I first started learning English, I remember sitting in class, trying to say something simple. My teacher asked, "What did you do yesterday?" And I froze. Inside my mind, I was building the sentence in my own language first, then trying to translate it piece by piece. By the time I finally found the words, everyone had already moved on. I smiled awkwardly, pretending I didn't care. But deep down, I felt small, like my voice had disappeared somewhere between two languages. Every day, I told myself, I understand English so well. Why can't I speak it? The truth was simple. I was not thinking in English. I was translating. And translation, my friends, is like walking with heavy chains. You move, but slowly, painfully, never freely. I remember lying in bed one night, replaying a conversation in my head. I had met a tourist earlier that day who asked me for directions. I knew exactly what I wanted to say, but the words came out broken, awkward. After he left, I whispered to myself in English. I wanted to say it better. That sentence stayed with me for years. You see, when we translate, our brain tries to play two games at once, thinking in one language and speaking in another. It's like trying to run in two directions. No wonder it feels hard. I realized that to speak naturally, I had to stop translating and start living in English. So, I began small. The next morning, I looked around my room and whispered, window, bed, lamp, book. It felt silly at first, like I was a child again. But slowly, something started to change. Words became faster. Sentences came easier. I began to think in English time, not translation time. And it wasn't just about speed. It was about emotion. When I started thinking in English, I didn't just know the words happy, tired, or grateful. I felt them. They stopped being translations of my native emotions. They became my own, living in a new language. Of course, it wasn't always smooth. There were days I felt stuck, frustrated, even embarrassed. I wanted to speak perfectly. I wanted to sound like those fluent YouTubers and native speakers. But then I learned something beautiful. Fluency isn't perfection. Fluency is freedom. It's not about never making mistakes. It's about not letting those mistakes stop you. I began talking to myself in English. When I cooked, I said, "I'm making breakfast. The coffee smells good." When I walked outside, I thought, "It's a sunny day. The air feels fresh." I didn't need anyone to listen. I just needed my brain to get used to hearing English. Not as a foreign sound, but as a natural rhythm of my thoughts. And then came the turning point. The moment I truly realized I was changing. One day, someone asked me a question in English, and before I even realized it, I answered instantly. No translation, no pause. The words came like water. I remember smiling afterward, because for the first time, English didn't feel like a subject I studied. It felt like a part of me. That's when I knew learning a language is not about memorizing. It's about rewiring your mind. You don't just study English, you become a little bit English every day. Every word, every thought, every feeling, slowly. It shapes the way you see the world. If you've ever struggled with translation, please know this. You are not bad at English. You are simply training your brain to think differently. It takes time. It takes patience. But it's worth every second. Because when you start to think in English, your world expands. Suddenly, movies make more sense, songs touch your heart deeper, and conversations become real, not mechanical. I often tell my students, don't study English to pass a test. Study it to feel alive in another language. That's what inspiring English is all about, helping you wake up the part of your mind that already understands, but just needs confidence to speak. Looking back, I'm grateful for those slow, painful moments, the mistakes, the silences, the confusion. They were not failures. They were steps. Each one taught me to stop fearing mistakes and start embracing the process. Now, whenever I meet new learners, I can see it in their eyes, that same fear I once had, and I tell them what I'll tell you now. Don't wait until you're ready. You'll never be fully ready. Start today. Think small. Think simple. Think in English. Every time you name something, every time you talk to yourself, every time you dare to speak even one sentence aloud, you're training your mind to think faster, clearer, and freer. And that's how it begins. Not with a perfect accent, not with perfect grammar, but with one simple decision: to stop translating and start thinking in English. Because the moment you do, everything changes. Chapter 2. Why I stopped translating. For a long time, I believed translating was the safest way to speak English. It felt like a warm blanket, something that protected me from mistakes. When someone talked to me in English, I would quickly translate every word into my language, then try to build a sentence and translate it back again. It felt smart at first. I thought I was being careful, that this was how I could speak correctly. But I didn't know that this safe habit was secretly slowing me down, trapping me inside my thoughts. My brain was always busy, too busy. It worked twice as hard, first to think in my native language, then to search for English words that fit. Sometimes, by the time I finished translating, the conversation had already moved on. People were smiling, waiting for my answer, but I had nothing to say. I felt like my mind was full of words, but my mouth couldn't find any. It became worse when I tried to say something fast. I wanted to sound natural, but my brain kept mixing the two languages together. The result? Strange sentences that made people smile politely or laugh. I still remember one time I said, "I have cold," instead of "I am cold." Everyone understood me, but I felt embarrassed. My grammar book said one thing, my thoughts said another, and my tongue couldn't keep up. At first, I thought something was wrong with me. Why could I understand English movies and songs, but not speak like them? I spent years studying grammar and vocabulary, but speaking still felt heavy, like walking through thick mud. My ideas were clear in my own language, but when I tried to express them in English, everything got blurry. I realized I wasn't really thinking in English. I was just translating words. Then one day, something small but powerful happened. I was sitting in a cafe, listening to a podcast in English. The host said, "Don't translate. Feel the meaning." That line hit me hard. Feel the meaning? I paused the audio and thought about it. What if I stopped trying to find the perfect translation and simply felt the message in English? What if I trusted my brain to understand without running back to my own language? That day, I made a decision. I would stop translating. It sounded scary, like jumping into deep water without knowing how to swim. But I was tired of being stuck in the middle. I wanted to be free, so I started small. When I looked at my phone, I said, "phone." When I saw a cup, I said, "cup." No translation, just English. At first, it was slow, but it felt different, lighter. Soon, I began thinking in simple English sentences during my day. I'm hungry. It's raining. I like this song. I didn't care about grammar or long words. I just wanted my brain to stay in English mode. And something amazing started to happen. My thoughts became faster. I didn't need to stop and check every word anymore. It was like my brain had found a shortcut. The more I practiced, the more confident I became. I stopped worrying about sounding perfect. I stopped asking myself, "Is this grammar right?" and started focusing on the message. People began to understand me more easily, and that gave me courage. I started to enjoy conversations instead of fearing them. Movies became my teachers. When I watched them, I didn't pause to translate every line. I listened, guessed, and felt. My ears began to recognize patterns, tones, and emotions. I started hearing the rhythm of English, the rise and fall, the pauses, the laughter in words, and for the first time, I could understand jokes in English without subtitles. That felt like magic. Listening became easier, and speaking became faster. I noticed that when I stopped translating, my pronunciation improved too. My mouth started to move the way native speakers spoke. I no longer sounded robotic. English began to flow through me instead of fighting against me. But the biggest change was inside my mind. I began to think differently. I realized that every language has its own way of seeing the world. When I thought in English, I felt more direct, more open, more expressive. English became more than just a language. It became a way of thinking, a way of feeling. Of course, I still made mistakes. I still forgot words. But now, instead of freezing, I found another way to express myself. If I didn't know the word for refrigerator, I said, "the cold box for food." And guess what? People understood me. That's when I learned that communication is not about using perfect words. It's about making your meaning clear. Thinking in English gave me confidence I never had before. I began to enjoy every little success. The first time I understood a song lyric. The first time I answered instantly in conversation. The first time I dreamed in English. Each moment was proof that my brain was growing stronger. Now, when I speak English, I don't translate. I just talk. My brain listens, feels, and responds, all in one flow. It's like dancing to music you love. You don't count the steps, you just move with the rhythm. And that's the secret I discovered. When you stop translating, English stops being a subject you study. It becomes a language you live. It becomes part of your daily thoughts, your feelings, even your dreams. So if you're listening to this and still translating every word in your head, I understand. I've been there. But you don't need to stay there. Start small. Look around you. Name what you see in English. Speak to yourself, even in short sentences. Allow yourself to make mistakes, because mistakes are not signs of failure. They are signs of growth. Every time you choose to think in English, you take one step closer to fluency. Every time you let go of translation, you open the door to real communication. And every time you trust your brain a little more, your confidence grows. Thinking in English helped me speak faster, listen better, and feel more confident, all at the same time. But more than that, it helped me feel free to express who I am, not just in my language, but in a new one. That's why I stopped translating, because the moment I did, I stopped being afraid. I stopped feeling small. I started feeling alive, and in English. Chapter 3. The mistakes that block you. When I look back at my English journey, I can clearly see the mistakes that kept me stuck for so long. They were small, silent mistakes, the kind that slowly steal your progress without you even noticing. I didn't fail because I was lazy or untalented. I failed because I kept doing the wrong things over and over again. But once I realized what was holding me back, everything started to change. The first mistake was that I relied too much on translation. I thought translation was my friend, a tool that would help me understand English better. But it was more like a cage. Every time someone spoke, I quickly tried to change their words into my language. It felt safe, but it made my brain tired. I was always one step behind, like trying to run a race while looking backward. I remember how I used to pause for several seconds before answering even the simplest question, because my brain was translating, checking, and doubting. It's like riding a bicycle with training wheels. You move, but never freely. You never really learn to balance. The second mistake was my obsession with grammar. I believed I couldn't speak until I was perfect. Every time I wanted to say something, a little voice in my head whispered, "Wait, check the rule first." So instead of speaking, I stayed silent. I was scared of being wrong. I was scared that people would laugh at me or think I was stupid. But one day, I noticed something surprising. Even native speakers make mistakes. They forget words. They start a sentence and then change it. They laugh about it and move on. That's when I understood. Grammar helps you build sentences, but it should never stop you from speaking. Fluency isn't born from perfection. It grows from communication. My third mistake was fear. Not the kind of fear you can easily see, but a quiet fear that hides behind your smile. The fear of sounding wrong. The fear of being judged. I remember once, in a group conversation, I wanted to share an idea. My heart was beating fast. My English sentence was ready in my mind. But I stayed quiet. I didn't trust myself. After that moment, I felt disappointed. I realized I was the one keeping myself silent, not the language. The truth is, no one expects you to sound perfect. People admire your courage to speak more than they notice your mistakes. Fluency doesn't come from waiting until you're ready. It comes from speaking even when you're not. The fourth mistake was that I didn't surround myself with English. I treated English like a school subject, not like a part of my life. In class, I spoke English, but as soon as I walked out the door, I switched back to my native language. I listened to music, watched TV, and even thought in my language. So, of course, my brain never truly switched to English mode. I didn't give it the chance to live in English. It's like planting a seed, but never watering it. You can't expect it to grow. When I finally surrounded myself with English, listening to podcasts, watching movies, reading simple stories, something amazing happened. English stopped feeling like a subject and started feeling like a friend. I remember the first time I changed my phone settings to English. Suddenly, every notification, every message, every menu, all in English. It was scary at first, but exciting too. I started to think in small English phrases without forcing it. When I listened to songs, I didn't translate every word. I just felt the emotion. I was living with English, not studying it. And slowly, my mind began to change. Of course, breaking old habits wasn't easy. I failed many times. I caught myself translating again, or staying silent out of fear. But each time I noticed it, I tried to correct it. Little by little, my new habits grew stronger. I told myself, it's okay to sound imperfect. It's okay to forget words. What matters is that I keep going. And that simple mindset changed everything. Once I stopped translating, speaking became faster. Once I stopped worrying about grammar, my sentences became smoother. Once I stopped fearing mistakes, I started enjoying conversations. And once I surrounded myself with English, my brain finally started to think in it. Looking back now, I can see that these 4 mistakes were not just problems. They were teachers. They taught me patience. They taught me courage. And most of all, they taught me that language learning is not about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to keep trying. Every time I meet new learners, I see them doing the same things I once did, translating every word, staying quiet, trying to be perfect. I always tell them, you don't need to be perfect to be understood. You just need to be real. Because the truth is, people don't connect to your perfect grammar. They connect to your energy, your emotion, your effort. Once I fixed those habits, my progress became faster than ever. I started to enjoy learning again. English stopped feeling heavy. It started to feel alive. I no longer studied it out of fear. I practiced it out of love. And when that happened, I didn't just become better at English. I became more confident in myself. So if you're stuck right now, maybe you're making the same mistakes I once made. But don't worry. Mistakes are not walls. They are doors. And once you walk through them, you'll realize that fluency isn't something far away. It's already waiting for you, just on the other side of fear. Chapter 4. How I trained my brain to think in English. When I first realized that translating was holding me back, I knew I had to change the way I learned, but I didn't know where to start. I didn't have a teacher to guide me step by step, and I was scared that maybe I couldn't really do it. Still, something inside me whispered, try one more time, but do it differently. That's how my journey of training my brain to think in English began. I didn't have a big plan or expensive books. What I had was curiosity. patience, and a small dream to make English feel natural, not foreign. The first step I took was simple, almost too simple. I started naming things around me. Every morning when I woke up, I looked around my room and said the names of things in English: bed, pillow, curtain, window. When I picked up my phone, I said phone. When I walked into the kitchen, I said spoon, plate, cup. It felt funny at first, like I was teaching a child, but I soon realized that I was teaching someone, my brain. Each time I said a word, my mind began to link English directly with the object, not with my language. It was a small change, but a powerful one. After a few weeks, I started to notice something amazing. I didn't need to translate anymore when I saw those things. The words came to me naturally, instantly, almost without thinking. Then I added, Step 2, talking to myself in English. This one felt strange at first. I remember standing in my kitchen, stirring rice, whispering to myself, I'm cooking, I'm making rice. Or when I walked outside, I said softly, It's sunny today. People might have thought I was crazy, but I didn't care. Talking to myself made English alive. It was no longer just words on a page. It was something I could use, something that belonged to me. I started describing everything I did, even simple actions. I'm washing the dishes. I'm opening the door. I'm tired. I need water. The more I spoke, the more natural it felt. My voice became my teacher, and my daily life became my classroom. Step 3 changed everything for me. I switched to an English dictionary. At first, it was difficult. I was used to translating every new word into my native language. But that habit kept me stuck in translation mode. So I decided to stop. When I looked up a new word, I forced myself to read its meaning in English only. For example, when I searched for excited, I read feeling very happy and eager. It was simple, but it helped my brain connect words with other English words instead of jumping back to my language. Slowly, I began to think in English even when learning new vocabulary. My understanding became deeper. Words were no longer just memorized translations. They had real meaning and emotion inside them. Then came step 4, keeping my thoughts short and simple. I used to try to make long, perfect sentences, but that only made me freeze. So I changed my approach. Instead of saying, I should go to the supermarket because I need to buy vegetables for dinner, I said, I need vegetables. It was short, but it worked. It freed my brain from fear and pressure. Over time, my short sentences naturally grew longer, not because I forced them, but because my confidence grew. I learned that it's better to say something small and clear than to stay silent trying to sound perfect. Step 5 was something I didn't expect to help so much: building an English voice inside my head. I started thinking in English about everything, planning my day, asking myself questions, or even daydreaming. When I woke up, I asked myself, what should I do first? Maybe I'll make coffee. When I walked to the bus stop, I thought, I'm late. I hope the bus comes soon. It became like a little conversation in my mind, a quiet English dialogue that followed me everywhere. At first, it was hard to maintain, but after a few weeks, it became natural. I didn't realize it at the time, but this was when I truly began to think in English. And finally, Step 6. surrounding myself with English. This was the step that made everything come alive. I filled my world with English sounds, words, and stories. I listened to English songs every morning. I watched short videos on YouTube, even when I didn't understand everything. I listened for the feeling, the tone, the rhythm. I read small posts and stories in English, even simple ones, before sleeping. My phone, my laptop, my apps, everything switched to English. It was like moving to a different world without leaving my home. Slowly, something changed inside me. English stopped feeling like a foreign guest I had to welcome carefully. It started to feel like a close friend who lived with me. The more I surrounded myself with English, the more my brain adapted. Words came faster, sentences formed naturally. I even started dreaming in English sometimes. Small, simple dreams. But they made me smile in the morning. Of course, there were difficult days. Sometimes I felt tired or unmotivated. Sometimes I spoke to myself and made mistakes that made me laugh. But I learned to love those mistakes. They were proof that I was trying. Whenever I felt frustrated, I reminded myself of one simple truth. Every small effort counts. Every little sentence I said to myself was building a bridge in my mind. Every English word I listened to was like a drop of water filling a cup. And slowly, the cup began to overflow. I remember the first time someone spoke to me in English and I answered without thinking. It happened so fast that I didn't even notice until afterward. I realized that I hadn't translated anything. I had just spoken. It was one of the happiest moments of my learning journey. That's when I truly understood what it means to think in English. It doesn't happen suddenly. It grows quietly, like a seed that turns into a flower after many days of sunlight and care. From that moment on, English stopped being something I studied. It became something I lived. My world grew bigger. I could read books, listen to podcasts, understand people's stories from around the world, all in English. I began to see how powerful language can be. It's not just about communication, it's about connection. Every time I spoke English, I felt like I was connecting to a larger world, full of ideas, dreams, and emotions. These 6 steps changed everything for me. Naming things, talking to myself, using an English dictionary, thinking simply, building an inner English voice, and surrounding myself with English. They became my daily routine. They didn't just help me learn English, they changed the way I saw myself. Now, when I look back, I smile, because the person who once hesitated to speak is gone. In their place stands someone who isn't afraid to think, speak, and live in another language. And that's the beauty of learning. It doesn't just teach you new words. It teaches you a new way to see the world. So if you're listening to this and wondering whether you can train your brain to think in English, yes, you can. You don't need perfect grammar. You don't need to memorize thousands of words. You just need to start small, stay consistent, and let English become part of your everyday life. Because the more you live with English, the more it lives inside you. And one day, just like me, you'll wake up and realize that English isn't something you learn anymore. It's something you are. Chapter 5. My daily practice and motivation. Thinking in English isn't magic. It's practice. Real daily practice. Many people believe that fluency comes suddenly, like a switch turning on. But the truth is, it grows slowly, like a plant you water every day. The more attention you give it, the stronger it becomes. When I understood this, everything changed. I stopped waiting for the perfect moment to start. I stopped worrying about big results. I just began, small, simple, every single day. Each morning when I wake up, I start my day in English, before I even reach for my phone. I take a deep breath and describe my plan out loud. Today I'll go to class. I'll meet my friends. I'll study at 8 p.m. It might sound too easy, but it's powerful. That first thought in English sets the tone for the whole day. It reminds my brain, we are using English now. I don't care if the sentences are short or simple. What matters is the rhythm, the sound of English living inside my morning thoughts. During the day, I try to keep my mind active in English. When I walk to the bus stop, I describe what I see. The weather is nice. That tree looks beautiful. A child is laughing. These tiny sentences don't take effort anymore. They come naturally, like breathing. Sometimes I even talk quietly to myself, not crazy talk, but small whispers that make my brain stay awake in English. It's not about showing off. It's about staying connected to the language, keeping it alive in every small moment. At night, before I sleep, I do something that has become my favorite ritual. I review my day in English. I close my eyes and think, I worked hard today. I learned something new. I feel proud. It's my way of saying goodnight to my progress, even on bad days. I still find one small thing to say. I tried. I didn't give up. This moment is quiet and simple, but it's powerful. It reminds me that every single day, I am becoming a little bit better than yesterday. One of my favorite exercises is what I call the No Translation Challenge. For 30 minutes each day, I force myself to think only in English. No matter what I'm doing, cooking, walking, or cleaning, I describe it in English in my mind. I'm cutting vegetables. I'm washing my hands. The water feels cold. Sometimes, I forget a word. In those moments, I don't stop. I simply explain it with other words. If I can't remember refrigerator, I say, the cold box where I keep food. That moment of creativity is where learning happens. My brain learns not to depend on translation, but to find meaning inside English itself. Another habit that has changed me deeply is keeping a small English journal. It's not perfect, and it doesn't need to be. I don't care about grammar or spelling. I just write how I feel. Sometimes I write one line. Today I was tired but happy. Other times, I write more. I met a friend. We talked for hours. I laughed a lot. My journal became a mirror of my progress. When I look back at older pages, I smile. I can see how my words became stronger, clearer, and more natural. Some days are easy. The words flow like water. I feel confident, and English feels like a friend. But other days are hard. My mind feels heavy, and my sentences sound broken. On those days, it's tempting to stop, but I don't. I've learned that progress is not about how fast you go, but about never stopping. Even on hard days, I do something small. Maybe I read one paragraph, or listened to a short podcast. Even 5 minutes count. because every small effort feeds your brain and keeps the habit alive. Motivation doesn't always come naturally. Some mornings I don't feel like practicing. I'm tired, or bored, or distracted. But I remind myself why I started. I remember the first time I couldn't speak. I remember that silence, that frustration. I never want to feel trapped like that again. So I choose to continue, not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. Every time I push through a lazy day, I come out stronger. Motivation grows from discipline. Sometimes, when I feel stuck, I make learning fun again. I watch a short movie scene and repeat the lines. I sing along to a song, trying to catch every word. I write short messages in English to my friends online. These small actions remind me that English is not just a skill, it's a part of life. It's music, stories, laughter, emotions. When you see it that way, practice becomes pleasure, not pressure. The best part is noticing small victories. The first time I understood a joke in English, I laughed so hard, not just because it was funny, but because I understood it instantly. The first time I dreamed in English, I woke up smiling. These little signs showed me that all my quiet practice was working. Every day I think in English, my brain becomes stronger, faster, and freer. I no longer need to translate. English has become the voice inside my mind, a second way to feel and express who I am. Sometimes, I still make mistakes, but they no longer scare me. I see them as proof that I'm growing. So if you're listening right now, I want to tell you something from my heart. Start small, but start today. Don't wait until you feel ready. You will never feel ready, and that's okay. Just take one small step. Name things. Talk to yourself. Write one line in your notebook. Watch a short video. Listen to a song. And then, do it again tomorrow. You won't see results overnight, but one morning, you'll wake up and realize that something has changed. You'll understand people faster. You'll answer without fear. You'll think in English without even trying. That's when you'll know your hard work has turned into fluency. Thinking in English isn't magic. It's your daily effort turned into power. Every word you speak, every line you write, every thought you form in English is like a tiny spark. And together, those sparks become a flame that lights your way to confidence. So keep going. Don't stop when it's hard. Don't stop when you're tired. Keep learning. Keep practicing. And keep believing. Because the more you think in English, the more fluent you become. The more you speak, the more natural it feels. And the more you believe in yourself, the further you'll go. Thank you so much for watching Inspiring English. If this video inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and send it to someone who needs a little English motivation today. And of course, hit the bell icon so you never miss the next lesson that can change your English, and maybe even your life.